So, again, welcome and thank you for coming today. You're all here because you received the letter that I sent out to yourselves with regards to the changes that are coming in April of next year that are going to affect all of us, not just in terms of cleaning, but in terms of everybody that's business related. It's going to affect us in some way, shape, or form. So that was basically the basis for today. So, Anthony. So we appreciate the fact that you're even here today. I know it's valuable time, especially gearing up to the end of term. So I appreciate the fact that you're able to join us here today. But hopefully today, off the back of the increases that have been coming year on year and the next set of increases that are going to be taking place, we'll be able to find you, help you in terms of a solution. So we've been in conversations with Judicium, who hold your contract, because we wanted to be able to kind of put forward to yourselves in terms of Nviro. Yes, we are your cleaning company. There are various other services that we also provide, but equally we want to be able to try and tailor your service to make sure that it is fit for purpose. You are getting the correct value for money, and you've obviously got that contract certainty in these uncertain times. Unfortunately, year after year, we've been coming to you saying that prices need to go up for various different governmental reasons that are completely out of our control. But what we want to be able to do here today is be able to kind of give you some hints and tips and an avenue in terms of how to mitigate some of those and making sure that just that your contract is correct and what we can do with that moving forwards. So just a kind of a little bit of history that I think we all know, but I thought we'd put it out there. In 2018, the initial contract with Nviro started with Strictly Education, and that's when we became their chosen cleaning provider for your schools. In 2023, that 5-year term ended with Strictly Education, and we've all entered into a 1-year rolling basis contract with them. And then in 2024, after that initial 1-year rolling contract, you've got that 4-month rolling basis, which has also been agreed on your contract. The team that you have, there should be some familiar faces on the screen. They're also in the chat as well. So hi guys, this is my team that I manage that also come out to your schools. So you've got Jose as your deputy service manager, you've got Paul Stevens as your area cleaning manager, and Kat Noack also as your area cleaning manager. They are the ones that are out there that are managing your cleaning teams on the ground, and as well as dealing with yourselves, the business managers, the head teachers, the caretakers that are on site as well with any issues that come up. They're also in direct liaison with Lee and Graham from Judicium also. What we have done today is we are going to introduce our sales team. And the reason why we're going to introduce our sales team is just as a fresh pair of eyes. So the steps that we're going to take you through, the hints and tips that we're going to take you through next are actually going to be things that are going to be led by our sales team, because Kat, Paul, Jose, even our cleaners, they see your sites every day in, day out. And sometimes they may not see certain things because they're so used to seeing something. So we thought, actually, in order to help with this, we're going to draft in our sales team. Again, like I said, just that new fresh pair of eyes and that fresh viewpoint for you. So I'll hand over to Anthony.
Thanks, Leanna. Yeah, and as Leanna shared, she came to me a while back now and said, how can we help support her and you and the schools and bring a fresh pair of eyes. So on the screen there, you'll see that we've got Scarlett and Colin as part of our team, and their roles and how you might see them will come to fruition over the next slides. But we're here to really give that support to Jose, Kat, Paul and Leanna and yourselves to look at what is currently being delivered at your schools and is it right. It's a long time ago that those contracts were put in place in 2018, so it's just not accepting that the norm is correct and taking that fresh approach. And what we're really suggesting here is a full review of your service. So we'll take you through a step-by-step guide of what we will go through to assess what services you actually require, what levels of cleaning you need throughout the year, so taking into consideration term weeks, inset days, the periodic deep cleaning. Is what you have now fit for purpose, or could there be different ways of working about it? What additional services you might have. So in addition to cleaning services, you might have window cleaning services, consumable purchasing, feminine hygiene, pest services. There's a whole raft of soft FM services, and it's just making sure that what you have is working for you. Do you have multi suppliers? Are you getting the best value? Looking at the contract, making sure that it supports your objectives and it works with what you're planning in your business, and how to handle these changing costs year on year. And we've just seen another unprecedented increase, which we'll talk a little bit about at the end. But what we really wanted to do is be proactive and come with solutions and different ideas that we can take a more of a holistic view at the contracts and the services we deliver, and give you options so that we can make proactive choices to help mitigate some of these costs and ensure that the service is right for you, your students and your staff. So what we've put together is a very precise step-by-step guide that we're going to go through, and we've designed this in a way that Kat, Paul and Jose will effectively be your voice, the voice of the customer, and that our sales team will come with that fresh pair of eyes. And throughout the process, we've designed it to try and have as little time and impact on you in the schools as possible, because we know your time is valuable. So for each step that we'll go through now, I'll make it really clear, should you wish to go down this avenue and explore your options, what we will need from you, so that it's just really understood what level of interaction and time you need to put aside. So the first step that we'd go through is we would need you to express an interest. So following this webinar, you'll receive an email, and that email will simply say, would you like us to carry out a review? And if you click yes, it will also ask you to just confirm which person or persons we're to communicate with throughout the process. Once we receive that instruction, the wheels are in motion, and then we'll move on to our second step. That second step will be a review of the services on site. So one of the sales team will attend site with one of your service team. So you won't be required to attend at this point. You won't need to take any time out of your day. They will go to site and do a full review of everything that's happening. So look at the specification, the daily tasks, the weekly tasks, the periodic deep clean, the times that we're cleaning, the equipment that's being used, and do a full review of all the services. And prior to that, we will confirm who's going to attend and when they're going to attend, and share their DBS numbers. And hopefully, if you are on site, they'll pop their head in, say hello, and you can meet them in person. But that's, again, really designed to be as little impact on you as possible and allow us to go out and carry out that full review. Following that, we will then send you a questionnaire. So this will be an online form, so it will come via an email with a link. Once you click the link, it will be a short form that should take you no more than 5 minutes. And at this stage, that questionnaire is to be completed just at your desk. No need to go away and find answers or do research or dig through records. It's just to answer it as you know the best at that time. And it will be to understand what your requirements are, any challenges that you have, what you are looking for in terms of a contract, what best suits you, and to understand any budgetary pressures that you're facing. And by collecting all that data, we will then have a better picture of how to build something and build a solution that's right for you. And we will review all those requirements. So we will look at the tasks that are carried out daily, weekly, the delivery schedule in terms of shift times, rotas, what's happening on inset days, is the periodic deep clean program correct and fit for purpose, and any ad hoc requirements you have throughout the year. In addition to the cleaning services, we'll also look at any additional services that you have, and whether we can again bring further value or share some of our best practice and insights across things such as purchasing for consumables and washrooms, and some of those more ad hoc requests that you might have for grounds work and window cleaning. And throughout that review, there may be a requirement for us to collect further data, and that will be bespoke to the individual requirements of each school. So if we do need a little bit more data, it might be that the sales team need to return back to site, or it might be that we need to come and ask you for example, how many feminine hygiene bins you have and what collection they're currently being, what frequency they're currently being collected on. So we'll go through that process, and if we do need any further data collection from yourselves, we will email you before that to just let you know it's coming, what we might be asking for, and just share kind of what it is that we're looking to collect. And if there is any further site visits, who's going to be on site, when they'll be on site, so that you know what activities taking place. Once we've collected all that, we've got all of the requirements, we will then be in a place to put together a proposal for you. So we will then send you and the persons that you listed on your expression of interest details of the cleaning specification. So that effectively looks like a tick sheet specification of what services are delivered daily, weekly, and during the deep cleans. What KPI measures we put forward. Now, well, in a moment, I'll talk about the partnership with Judicium and the different alternative options you have if you contract directly with a provider. But what we'll put forward is our kind of key KPI measures which we believe is required to make sure that the service is being delivered correctly, which will detail things like audit frequency, the pass rates of cleaning audits, health and safety measures, near miss reporting, training measures, how DBS records are shared, and all of those important elements that go alongside the day-to-day cleaning service to make sure that the contract is being run smoothly, effectively, and in a safe manner. And then lastly, pricing, and that will be somewhat determined by some of the feedback you provide us on the questionnaire. So we can be very flexible with our pricing. We can offer short-term rolling contract pricing, such as we have now. We can provide fixed pricing over a period of time, and it's all about what best supports you and your budgetary planning and your monetary planning. So we'll be able to give you different options of what that looks like, and then take that forward should you wish to do so. And then the final step would be any clarifications that you might have. So you would have received the proposal, received the specification of the KPIs and pricing, and this is your opportunity to actually come back to us and say, could we do things a bit differently? Are there elements within the specification that we could change? What are the different pricing alternatives that you've put forward? And just really understand what we've provided to you, and then we can make any tweaks and changes if that's what comes to fruition. And following that guide, we will then be in a position to present you with a final offer and details of what those next steps are. And we've looked at the timeline, and our aim is to be able to complete that process by the end of January, so that you would have a tangible offer to consider and discuss about what the next steps would be. And those next steps with Leanna and Judiceum would be taken around the table to look at, okay, how is the current contract working? If we want to make a change to the new contract, how would that work? And then there can be discussions around if Judiceum and the management of the contract wants to join in with the new service delivery program that will be put forward. Thank you, Leanna.
Neil, ready? Thanks, Anthony. So in terms of what we've just been through, and in terms of the letters that you should have received, not only from myself, but also from elsewhere in terms of April of next year, there's a lot of change coming. I personally don't look forward to having to tell you year on year that your prices are going up. I'm looking forward to the year when I have to say, when I can say your price is actually going down. But I'm very aware that maybe for the last 3-4 years, it's been consistent increase after another. And like I say, the changes that are coming in April are no different. It's another increase that's been put on the table. But what we want to be able to do is give you that reassurance in terms of a continuity of service, and ensuring that you know that we are committed to wanting to continue with your cleaning services, but also try to help you in terms of bringing about what's best, and just that full review and understanding of actually, is what we're currently doing, are we doing the right thing? Just because we've always done it that way, is that the way that we should continue to do it? What's the best thing for us? But also with that continuity of service, trying to avoid that disruption that comes with procurement as well. It's unnerving for yourself, it's time consuming for yourselves, it's unnerving for your cleaning teams, it's unnerving for your staff on site as well. But equally, as Anthony has said, and I think I've also briefly said, we want to make sure that you're actually paying for what you need, and you're not just paying for things just because it's something that you've always had in place. So I hope we've been able to kind of address that. But equally, as Anthony said, the next steps are for you to express an interest so that we can tailor it specifically for yourselves. So I will be in touch again. I know I've been emailing, and I know that you've received a few phone calls as well from Andrea as well in terms of being able to join on today. But I will email again in terms of just you expressing that interest, that we can actually really just dig into your contract a bit further and understand what the services are that you actually need and what that looks like. And as Anthony said, because of our timelines, it means that by the end of January, you've got a better idea in terms of your budgets for what's going to happen ahead of April. And that also is the aim for today. We want you to get ahead of things before April. Yes, there will be conversations about the increases. Obviously, the wages have gone up, the employment rights bill is taking effect. But what can we proactively do prior to that so that you can really tweak and understand what you've got to play with on site and what your school can do? There have been a few questions that have been submitted. So there is something that's sitting on the tip of my tongue that I'm trying not to say, but it's because I know it's in one of the questions that's about to come up. So I think now's the perfect time just to go over the questions that you submitted. So in terms of this one, Anthony, actually, I'm going to hand this one to you.
I thought you was going to read it to me. So am I happy with the current cleaning specification? Is there any value going through this process? But if you are happy with the current cleaning specification, that's great. I think what we're looking to do here is to just kind of reconfirm that the specification is correct. And if that's the outcome, that's great news, because that means that what you've been paying for and the service that you've been delivering is fit for purpose. I believe that there will be value for going through the process, because it's not just the current cleaning specification that we'll look at. We'll look at all of those additional services that support it, the KPI measures that measure the output of the contract, which also means kind of the management information that you receive, the frequency of audits, because those things take your time as well as ours. And it will look at the different contract and pricing options that you have. And as I mentioned, we can be very flexible in that regard. So it might be that your cleaning specification remains the same, but the structure of the contract and the pricing and what management and KPIs go around it could change to better support that delivery. So I wouldn't be off put if you think I'm happy with the cleaning, I don't really need to change it. It's a full review of all those elements that support the day-to-day cleaning that will also take place.
Thanks, Anthony. I'll read the next one. What's the next one?
I think it's yours, so you can. No, it's not one.
We just don't have the budget to pay price increases each year. What guarantees can you give me that price increases will stop going up so much? That's definitely one for you, Anthony.
We completely understand that all of our customers, particularly at schools, and don't have a 10 to 12% budget increase for this year, or when the national insurance increase went up, don't have a 10% budget. And we completely understand that. And likewise, we are feeling those same pressures, and we're all in it together. In terms of what guarantees we can give you that the price will stop going up so much, unfortunately, we can't give you guarantees. What we are able to do is, as I said, give you forecasts that we're including, and also give you options around how we structure the pricing. So there are methods where we can provide you for example, a 2 or a 3 year fixed contract price, where we effectively are forecasting what the increase is going to be, and then we accept that commercial risk. So for yourselves, you would then have a fixed price over the 3 years that you know that that's going to be your price. And for us, we would have the contract certainty of a 3 year contract. So that's the payoff that we would have in exchange for that. So there are different ways that we can help give you guarantees of your price. And when we do that, we're very transparent in how we have built that forecast and what we've built into it, which is all derived from economic forecasts of increases. So where inflation and interest are forecast to be over the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm still waiting for the one that was on the tip of my tongue. This is the one. So my student numbers are decreasing. What does that mean for our school in terms of cleaning? Now, this is a conversation that I have been having quite a lot recently, both in terms of primary schools, high schools, and further education. So the answer to that is we can absolutely review what needs to happen. It's an easier process if it's a case of your numbers are decreasing, therefore you're not using specific areas. So you know that there's going to be particular rooms or buildings within your complex that are actually not going to be used. It's slightly different, but it's still possible if your numbers are decreasing, but you're still going to be using all of the rooms within the building. It's not impossible to do. It's just worked out ever so slightly differently. So what does that mean in terms of your cleaning? It means that we can absolutely review the specification, and as we not going to take it for granted, but as we understand that that does mean looking at the hours that go in there, the amount of people that are in there. So that's all part of the review. And again, that would be something that we would come out, we would have a look at, we would understand in terms of which buildings are not in use, or which rooms are not in use, or which areas are going to be used less frequency, and that all builds into the specification for that one as well. I think we've got a few more, haven't we, Anthony?
Yes.
So with this one, we just don't have the budget to pay price increases.
I think we've had that one. That was a repeat.
Yes. No
And that was a
problem.
repeat. There we go.
You mentioned KPIs. Could I save money if I don't need you to report so regularly? Anthony, there was a slide about KPIs. Do you want to dig a bit deeper on this one?
Yeah, so this is where it's understanding what you would like to do in terms of the role of Judicia moving forward within your contract. So currently we are essentially a third party contractor via Judicia who act as your managing agent. And as they are there to support you with managing the service that we deliver, we are measured against their KPIs. And we are happy to continue in doing that. So we're putting forward a review of the service, which looks at what we deliver on site. And you then have the choice whether you want to move forward with Judicia to manage those changes that potentially we've put forward, or you could look at going directly with a contractor such as us. That's where you would then need to understand the different KPI measures. If it's through Judicia, that's a conversation to have with them about how they carry out their KPIs and how that process is. If it was directly with us, then we could look at the different elements that build up those KPIs and effectively the management time that's needed, particularly with things like carrying out site audits and reviews, quarterly reviews. So 100% we could look at that, and particularly if we could change the frequency of the auditing, for example, moving away from monthly audits to termly audits, that would save management time, and we can reflect that in the management fee.
Amazing. We've got another one on there. Why are costs going up so much? I think you briefly touched on this, but I'll leave that one to you again, Anthony.
Yeah, so to kind of give you, I suppose, an explanation of the 10 to 12%, which we've provided in the letters as that awareness piece that we sent out, there are three elements that are built within that percentage increase. So the first is the legislative change to wage rates. So that's a very black and white. We understand that the wage rate is going up. I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head, roughly 7%. And with that, you also then have a very black and white calculation of all of the additional wage costs that will also increase, such as national insurance contributions at 15% and pensions contributions. So that one's very black and white. You can calculate that using a spreadsheet. The second of the third is around the Employment Rights Bill and SSP. So without going into loads of detail, from the 1st of April, all of the staff will be eligible to be paid sick pay from day one. Currently, they're eligible for sick pay from day 4, and there are different bandings and cut-offs in there currently. Those kind of restrictions and bandings and minimum earnings are also being removed. What that means is currently, if a cleaner of one of the schools is sick for a day, Jose and his team will go through their short-term absence process and cover that sickness, and essentially the member of staff that's not at work isn't being paid, so that cover cleaner is essentially being paid the wages for that day. What we're going to have from the 1st of April is we'll go through the same absence cover process, but we now need to pay the cleaner who's been off sick, and those costs, those sickness costs, aren't currently covered in the contract. So that is a legislative change. However, it's not as black and white as the wage increase change, because what sickness costs are going to be come to life and what sickness costs are going to be realised with the new changes all depends on the level of sickness on site and your absence management processes, which is why at the moment there's a banding and there's no definitive percentage that we've been able to provide. And the third area is again related to the employment legislation and the Employment Rights Bill, and that is the increased management that is going to be required to manage all of the new Employment Rights Bill initiatives that are coming in. And there's around about 30 initiatives that are staggered, which include things such as increased protection for paternity and maternity, increased sexual harassment rights, SSP from day one, rights for employment from 6 months was just announced, new kind of legislation around the management of probation period. So there's a lot of different employment rights bill initiatives which are going to put a large focus on the management teams in the field. And the current guidance out there is that that's going to see an increase of management costs of around about 2 to 4% for all of those changes. So if that answers your question, why costs are going up so much, there's quite a historic reform that's coming in. and there's a lot of discussions going around, and what we're in constant consultation, and our head of HR is in constant consultation to understand what that means for our management teams, what that means for you as a customer, what it might mean differently on site. And there's a lot of different areas around kind of procedures and processes and policies that will be updated, and you will see some of that communication as customers over the next 2 or 3 months.
Amazing. So there is one question. There is one question in the chat which I'll address. I won't take any more questions in the chat. I've just realised the time, but I will address. I didn't want to close without addressing this from Mrs. Golder. So we are a shrinking school and looking to potentially mothball classroom blocks. I don't know the details of that yet. So how can I manage this review without knowing this? How does this impact redundancy of your staff potentially? So in terms of, if you have an idea, then I can obviously start. That would be something that would come to myself. I would definitely be able to start in terms of having a look at your specification and what that means. If you've got a rough idea in terms of what classroom blocks that looks like. Obviously, once you've got more detail towards that, we can then tweak the review. In terms of redundancy, it all depends. So if we are significantly reducing hours, we would need to enter redundancy consultations with the staff. However, what we like to do at Nviro, and we've done this time and time again, is we have to offer them the potential of redundancy, but we also look at what other vacancies we've got in the surrounding areas, so that we can potentially move them elsewhere rather than them leaving Nviro and taking redundancy. So it may look like they may leave Nviro completely and take the redundancy option, or it may mean that they reduce their hours on your particular site, but they pick up additional hours elsewhere and on an Nviro contract, which could be a non-educational contract or an educational contract, depending on where they live and what's going to work best for them. But in the interim, by all means, if you do have any information about what that mothballing may look like, by all means, please reach out and we can include that in the review that can take place. I hope that's answered the question.
Just to add to that, Leanna, on the questionnaire we send out, that's going to be one of the areas which is your future plans. So there'll be a question about what is the plan for your school and your estate over the next 2 or 3 years in terms of increases and decreases. And as exactly as Leanna said, if you share that on the questionnaire, when we kind of build the review, we can just separate it almost like a shopping list. So you know that when it comes to the point in time that you are going to enact that change in next year or the year after, you kind of know what that means, particularly for your budgets, so you can plan for that.
So on that note, with 60 seconds to go, I want to say thank you, everybody. It was a lot of information, and we tried to keep it as top level as possible because we didn't want to take up too much of your time, especially we know you are gearing up towards the end of term and it is busy for yourselves. But like I say, I will be in touch. Equally, you have my email addresses, you have my email address, you have my contact phone number. By all means, if you want to reach out, you are more than welcome to do so. But I will be reaching out, as we said, following this, in terms of that expressing an interest. So on that note, I will allow you all to go back to your days. I hope you all have a good day. I know it's Tuesday, but I hope we're still having a good start to the week, and I hope you have a good end to the week as well.